Unnecessary Roughness YouTube channel. It's been a little bit of a shit show this weekend. Half of the podcast is in Chicago. We were here for the Notre Dame Wisconsin game, but no fail. We are getting this out to you as soon as we could on Sunday morning. Katie, Jack, and I rapid fire through all the biggest things of the weekend. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and share. And trust me, you want to be in the live chat on Tuesday night when Brandon returns. It's going to be an absolute crazy clown show. So again, make sure you turn on your alerts. Enjoy the show. So Chicago's Wi-Fi is kind of a shit show, huh?
Yeah, I was in New York, but last night it looked like you guys were in 2008, like with the not streaming, but more so the Wi-Fi connection. I couldn't believe it. It wasn't able to get out. Maybe it was because there was more people on the Wi-Fi last night, but this morning it looks a little bit better.
Well, I mean, also like when we decided to start doing these podcasts on Saturday nights, we didn't thoroughly think through being on the road because we usually come back home, but we're on the road still. And you're back in New York. So this is like a true, it's a learning curve for us, Jack. That's what we're doing here.
No, yeah. I mean, stuff happens, unfortunately. But we figured it out. I mean, it's 10:13 where I am, 9:13 where you are. We've been texting since like 7:30. We figured it out. We wanted to get it out right away, but stuff happens, and we're sorry for the Roughnecks, but not for the Roughnecks, to them, but we figured it out. And
I'm sorry for them too. I'm sorry for them too, because I feel like, you know what, Jack? I feel like I have a lot to apologize about, so we should just probably get into the podcast.
Yeah. But thanks to all the Roughnecks that were like, where the fuck is my podcast? It made me feel like, oh wait, you guys really care, which is cool.
Yeah. My DMs this morning, there were a lot of I'll save it for the podcast, but I bet you can imagine how bad my DMs look.
Yeah. For you guys, it was like, oh, the hotel Wi-Fi wasn't working because everybody lost, but it really wasn't. So, and let's just get into the show.
Hi, welcome to Unnecessary Roughness, presented by High Noon Hard Seltzer. I'm trying my best to do my best impression of Brandon Walker. He will not be joining us this morning. He will be back for the midweek episode, and I know that everybody that's listening definitely needs to hear from him because, boy, Mississippi State was a shit show yesterday. But I have Katie and Jack. Jack is in New York. I am in Chicago. Katie's in Chicago. We are heading to Aurora for an NFL Sunday with Dave and Dan and the Chicago guys. And, I mean, Katie, just listening to you talk just a second ago, you sound like I did yesterday.
It's just the morning. So I cough once and now we're okay.
I was about to say, you just like change your voice?
It's a 50-50 shot every time I talk in the morning.
Yeah, so I was battling yesterday. We did a live show in Chicago, which, Katie, obviously you were there for Wisconsin Notre Dame. I think it was the coolest crowd we have ever seen because it was at a neutral site. So we had equal Wisconsin fans, equal Notre Dame fans. And on top of that, it was the biggest crowd we've ever had. And if you watched College Game Day yesterday, no one gave a shit to be there. The entire world that was at our game only wanted to be at our game. It was fucking awesome.
It was just insane. Like I was in the middle of the crowd taking videos. It's just the environment. Like even also then being in the stadium afterwards, just the crowds, everyone cheering together. Like Notre Dame, we were sitting in their section. They were doing some like hand cheers and just seeing like the wave of people all together. Just football's back and it's awesome.
It's so back. And Jack, you helped me out. You gave me a little assist yesterday with a nice tweet from Unnecessary Roughness.
No, yeah, we talked about it on the preview episode, but there was one major difference on the 3 game days or kickoff shows in Chicago yesterday, and we had to point that out. And no, it wasn't that one isn't on cable because it's not 2012 anymore. That doesn't matter.
Did you see somebody, and he deleted it really quickly? I screenshot it though, just in case we ever need it. Somebody was like, oh, there's a show where no one played football. And I was like, okay. Like, guys, come on. Like, let's be for real. But I mean, again, yesterday was awesome. I mean, we'll get into that game because that did start off the day in a crazy way. I did not feel well. Don't worry to all the people out there. I am COVID negative. All the COVID shamers came out. I am not contagious, but I felt like absolute shit all day yesterday, which allowed me to watch games, which was really cool. However, Jack, I know you were watching all the games back in Manhattan. I can honestly say that every time we think the slate is going to be shitty and we talk about how bad the games are, those are the days that create the most chaos.
Yesterday was There was a minute there, not a minute, more like 30 minutes. I think it was after the 3:30 slate, so probably around 6 to 7, where it felt like everything was happening at once, and it was crazy. And I mean, there were some games that happened that would have been like, oh, that was the major upset of the weekend, but we just like it felt like it didn't even happen because there was so much chaos. But Kayce, we do have to start in Dallas, or I guess that's Arlington. Where's the star?
Don't make me mad. It's he is proud that it is Arlington, Texas, not Dallas.
So let's start there, and let's talk about the guy who's proud that it's in Arlington, Texas, Jerry Jones, who finally has found himself a winner in Arkansas. And unfortunately, I'm not. You have the floor.
Jack, you're gonna try to kick me while I'm down. Listen.
No, I'm not. I was disappointed too. You know, I'm the biggest A&M fan on the podcast.
Yeah, no, I know but you also are a Haynes King guy, which is out of the question for right now. All right, listen, I'm going to go ahead and just say this. There are moments in time where you have to make a decision. You can either stand by what you said and just argue until the death of it, or you can step back and you can say, you know what? I was wrong. And I really have gone back and forth. Now, obviously, I can't be wrong about the fact that A&M lost to Arkansas yesterday. I can't be wrong about the fact that A&M's offense looked absolutely putrid. And they came out in the second half and made the defensive adjustments that they needed to. And the offense, I mean, Katie was watching it for a little bit with me. It's the most frustrating thing I've ever seen. Now, I will say, not to make an excuse, because we are talking about football here, backup quarterback, freshman who shouldn't be playing. The offensive line was one of the best in the country last year. You've got 4 freshmen playing. Still, though, what I need to apologize, Jack, and I need everyone to listen to me loud and clear. In the year of social media, in the day of social media, you cannot say anything that could potentially get you in trouble, because people will remind you. What I did a few weeks ago when the University of Texas lost to Arkansas in an embarrassing fashion, I think it was 40-21, something like that. I sent out a tweet that said something along the lines of, I was just an asshole. I was a complete asshole about it, and said, can you imagine thinking you're ready for the SEC and you go out and you lose to an Arkansas team who has won single digits in the SEC in like 5 years? Unfortunately for me, we did the same thing, Jack. And I don't really know what to say other than I was wrong. That's all I can say. I don't want to be wrong, but I was wrong. It was a horrific game by A&M offensively, and Arkansas looked pretty legit.
I was on A&M minus 5.5, but unfortunately, I couldn't. It was tough to watch the game because it felt like every chance. I mean, when Isaiah Spiller scored 70-yard touchdown to make it a 7-point game, and KJ Jefferson was injured on the sidelines. I thought, oh, A&M's going to find a way to get this done, but the offense was just really putrid. And we can point out the defense a little bit, but I don't know. The defense kept them in the game for a very long time. And yeah, sure, there were some unlucky things that happened, but it felt like that game was for the taking, and A&M didn't take it. And I have no choice but to admit that Arkansas is a pretty to really good football team, which is shocking because it felt like just this time last year we were talking about how they'd never won an SEC game. They hadn't won an SEC game for about 2 to 3 years. Sam Pittman was a water boy at Georgia. But I think that's a major story here. Sam Pittman was an assistant coach for 38 years, and we made fun of him left and right. And it's not just Brandon. Brandon was the main culprit, but Sam Pittman went out there and has turned around an Arkansas program that looked not dead, but close to it. And they go and they beat A&M for the first time since you guys went to the SEC. Sam Pittman, I know some will say probably his coordinators are the main reason here, but Sam Pittman, my God, what a turnaround. And Arkansas being good, I mean, I think it's good for the SEC. I would have preferred A&M to win that, but
same.
We are an A&M, not A&M podcast, but obviously pro Texas A&M here. But Arkansas is back, and they're back in a major, major way.
Not only did they play, they just outplayed A&M. Now, you talk about the defense early in the game. Like, I think they forgot to get off the bus. A&M's defense just didn't. I mean, the amount of just 20-plus yard plays was just unacceptable. And that, coming into that game, everyone was talking about A&M's defense being one of the best in the country. But the thing that I really noticed with Arkansas yesterday was that they really wanted to play. And I know that, every year it's like, well, of course they want to play. They're on the team. Like, the energy around that program, as soon as kickoff happened, felt completely different than what we've seen since really Bobby Petrino was there. And I mean, again, like the motorcycle thing is like a whole, that's an off the field thing, but like they looked like they actually wanted to play. They kicked A&M's ass from the very beginning. And on top of that, what we saw was A&M's offense, whether Haynes King was there or not, we can play the hypothetical of like what's going to happen. But I have to make another apology, Jack, because what we saw was that if you don't have a running quarterback in the SEC, you're not going to win SEC football games. And yesterday, I was literally jumping up and down on my bed, not feeling well. Keep in mind, like I could have been out with everybody else. No, I was in bed. I was jumping up and down, screaming, because there are so many times that Calzada had a wide open opportunity to just use his legs and scramble to get a first down. So many times. And then he would either have to throw it away or dunk it off for a couple yard gain. And the only thing that I could think of, Jack, and Katie was in the room too, boy, do I miss Kellen Mond. And that's an apology. Like, I know that like I came around on Kellen by the end of his career, and that was a big knock on me. A lot of times people said I didn't support him as A&M's quarterback, because in my head, I was just thinking, okay, like he's doing enough to get the yardage, maybe get the games. They only lost one game last year, but I don't think that I truly realized what it would look like for A&M and a Jimbo Fisher offense to not have a quarterback who can make play with his legs. Because all Arkansas had to do was just stack the box and stop the run and then make Calzada make those throws. And most of them he could not make. I think he dropped back like 40 times. And like, it was an insane look into the past without Kellen Mond is what I felt like. So my apology goes to, well, I don't apologize to Texas fans because I don't give a shit, but I apologize to everybody that I mocked about Arkansas. And I apologize to Kellen Mond because, wow, that game would have been different without him yesterday.
Yeah, Calzada, 20 for 36, 151 yards, 4.2 average, complete yards per completion. I was just looking at the box score. I mean, it was 17-0 early in the second quarter, and Arkansas only scored 20 points in the entire game. I don't know. If you told me that, even when it was 17-0 or 17-3, I just thought to myself, A&M's going to find a way to win this football game, but they just didn't at all.
They sure didn't. And you know what?
It was frustrating. And you know what? I can only imagine how frustrating it was for you.
Credit to me for not using the phrase that everyone thinks I'm going to use here.
Yep.
Not going to use it, Jack. Not going to use it.
Don't use it.
I'm not going to. But if I was going to, welcome to my world. And I know million upsets yesterday. I get that. But A&M is never in the picture nationally, ever. And when they are, something like this happens. They were number 7 in the country. Had this been in a couple weeks and it was Alabama, fine. I'm the one sitting here. I said I thought they would still make the playoff because they were going to lose to Alabama in the regular season. And now, I don't know. Are we going to lose 77-0? I think we might lose 77-0. Like, and I know, and I said this last year too, after Alabama, and I jumped off the A&M bandwagon or whatever people were saying. They're like, oh, you're a bad Aggie. I'm going to sit here right now and say this. I am not abandoning my team. I love this team more than anything on the planet. I will be wearing my Aggie ring still. I will be just shouting from the rooftops how much I love A&M. If there is anybody that's an A&M fan out there right now that is confident in this team playing the likes of Alabama, or hell, even next week with Mississippi State, or let's go down the line and look at everybody A&M has to play, I would love to hear your rationale. Because if that team that came out yesterday against Arkansas, who is better than we thought they were, but if that team comes out and plays the way they did yesterday offensively, it's going to be humiliating. And if you can't admit that, you're just blind. You're wearing maroon colored glasses, because that was a horrible football game. I still love my team, Jack. I still love my team, Katie. I know the podcast had a bad day yesterday, but that was a disgusting display of football, and I deserve to eat all the crow on my plate after I made fun of Texas for losing to that team. Mark that down. out on social.
Kayce, yesterday, we had a great day of college football, but more importantly, I was comfortable watching college football, and it's still kind of summer. It's fall a little bit, but I had on some shorts from Bare Bottom Clothing, and let me just say, they were comfortable, and I also thought I looked pretty cool in them.
Well, yeah, I mean, you always look cool, Jack. Don't give yourself so, don't be so self-deprecating. But I will tell you this, I was actually happy to be away from Manhattan for a little bit because I don't know what's going on with the weather up in the Northeast right now, but in Chicago, it was like a nice 50 degrees in the morning yesterday. By the time we kicked off the college football show, it was like 55, got up to 65. And I had on a bare bottom long sleeve. It was a large, so it was oversized with my leggings. It was a nice hunter green to watch games yesterday. It was so comfortable. And I was so happy that the weather was turning because, bare bottom, they've got stuff for the summer. They've got stuff for the winter. But more importantly, it's just comfortable as shit. No matter what you're wearing, like you will be like basically laying on like satin is what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, they have the internet's best deal. You can get 2 unbelievably soft, lightweight tech tees and a pair of stretch shorts for under $100.
Damn.
The shorts I was wearing yesterday were below the knee with their 5.5 and 7-inch seam styles, which is, by the way, very cool these days. Everything is built for value. Their shorts are rated 5 stars. And then also, giving back is at the core of what Bare Bottom does. They donate a school lunch to a child in need for each item sold. So while you get Bare Bottom, and we're about to give you a nice little deal, you also are helping out communities across the United States with their giving school lunch to children in need, which is, I mean, you have to get behind that.
We are for the kids.
So right now, you can get free shipping on your first item at our first order at barebottomclothing.com with code WALKER. That's BEAR clothing. So it's bear, like the animal, bottom, clothing.com, barebottomclothing.com, and use the code WALKER. And you will get free shipping on your first order. You won't regret it. You'll look great. And more importantly, you'll feel great. It was a tough day for the podcast. A&M was not the only major team to lose. I mean, the best moment for the podcast was probably UConn almost winning a game. But
I wish I could see Katie's face right now because I'm probably sure we made the exact same face.
She actually laughed. I saw her in the top right corner. But speaking of Katie, I was talking about when it was yesterday was so chaotic that like I didn't realize that there was a lot of things going on when they were going on. North Carolina losing to Georgia Tech and the way they lost to Georgia Tech was, I mean, I felt bad for Katie, and I'm going to give her the floor in a second, but North Carolina just got thoroughly dominated. And Brandon, I wish he was on today's podcast, but we'll talk to him in the middle of the week. But all of our quarterbacks that we predicted, and Katie brought this for the show, to be our top quarterbacks. Spencer Rattler, we saw them chanting for Caleb Williams, which, by the way, Oklahoma fans, relax. Like,
I know we're getting to that, but like that's the meanest fucking thing ever. Like,
yeah, and shout out to Spencer Rattler because after the game he said, "Hey, I just focus. I don't listen to them. I focus. They're not on the field," and that's literally the most perfect answer I've ever seen. He didn't insult his fans. He was just like, "Hey, I just focus on what my teammates say." But let's go to the other quarterback that we all thought was the best in the country, which I still think is pretty good. But Katie, North Carolina goes down to Georgia Tech and as 12-point favorites on the road. Very popular pick, North Carolina minus 12. It was really unfortunate for the Tar Heels last night.
Yeah, it's a lot of the same frustration that Kayce voiced, was just like you feel like you're the better team, and then there's so many moments I just sat on my bed, my jaw just dropped, and I was like, this is not happening. Just disbelief, like not even angry, couldn't even process it. And like after the game, they said, "Oh, we only prepared for one quarterback system because we didn't think Jeff Sims was going to play." I'm like, he started all last year. You kind of hope, like, obviously I know UNC football is not any blue blood, but you kind of hope like, okay, we're in the right direction.
No.
So sorry, that's my alarm to wake up.
birth control alarm, Katie?
Yeah,
No, it's a wake up one, my emergency one. But it was just like you kind of have hope. You have hope Mac Brown's doing it. We're become national. We can go to the ACC championship and maybe at least do well versus Clemson. I even tweeted it earlier in the day. I was like, ACC, like the new goal to win the ACC championship. That's not going to happen. And just we're just going to be stuck as a basketball school. Like not writing off a season, but just it's just frustration. You just sit there just flabbergasted. And also the white jerseys, I know they look amazing. We always shit the bed in them. Like in the same way Iowa State plays really well in their blackout jerseys, the Stormtrooper UNC ones, like you can go back. We often play them with Virginia Tech. I just see that and I crumple inside. It just, the odds, it's insane.
Katie, you got a tweet yesterday that made me laugh so hard. It was like, stay away from Brandon and Kayce because we don't need the juju from the night game. Really? I mean, it really did have a feeling like, you watched the North Carolina game in your own room, but like it had a feeling all day that this podcast was just cursed. Like, with Mississippi State losing to LSU in the first slate of the game, but also like in pure Mississippi State fashion, we'll get to that game too, but then A&M losing and then Jack UConn, like, I know we got to throw that one in there, but watching that North Carolina game, especially compared to last week and how high we were on Sam Howell. And I don't want to bury Sam Howell. I saw some people on Twitter being like, oh, what are you guys going to say about Sam Howell today? It's like, no, he's still a really good quarterback. They just didn't play well yesterday. I know, obviously, he's not the Heisman front runner. I've been saying that Bryce Young is the Heisman front runner, but that's just me. That North Carolina team is so Jekyll and Hyde, and I can't figure it out. It's like, with A&M at least, and not to bring it back to A&M, but like they looked really shitty against Colorado. Haynes King got hurt. They buried a team that no one cared about. Fine. But North Carolina puts on these super impressive performances and then looks like a completely different team week to week. And you would think with Mac Brown as their head coach, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it's a lot what Brandon said last year. I thought it would change this year, but evidently it didn't. He said, we're talented enough to beat anyone, young enough to lose to anyone. And it's the same thing this year. We're going to lose Powell this year. Like, I like Jacoby Criswell. I like Drake May, but just, this was the year. We had everything together.
But here's the thing too. And Jack, I know you had like a million TVs yesterday. It was actually like, I was jealous that I was watching on one hotel screen, but the ACC in general, I mean, we saw Clemson lose yesterday to North Carolina State, which I mean, again, like I buried Clemson last week and I was just like, I mean, maybe I was jumping on it too soon, but Jack, you and I went back and forth with it. That offense is fucking awful. The ACC in general is just terrible.
What I was going to bring that up now. Clemson, and some people were tagging me in the post where I was like, oh, no, we know Clemson's a top 10 team. We were talking about that last week. You were right. There's no other way to say it outside of what you said on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever we recorded. You said Clemson's just putrid. That offense was putrid. They shouldn't even made it to overtime because NC State's kicker missed God knows how many kicks. Clemson, I mean, Dabo said it after the game, and I mean, I'm not to defend them, but he's like, we're just not a very good football team right now. And they're not. And they'll still be ranked this week, which shows how dumb the AP poll is, because they really shouldn't be, because they barely beat Georgia Tech, which I guess Georgia Tech is okay, but whatever. But Clemson goes down to NC State. Clemson, it's September. They already have 2 losses. The first time it's happened since 2014, I think. They may be out of the college football playoff.
I think they're
like 99% out. There'd have to be a serious amount of chaos. So yeah, Clemson, I mean, geez, Louise.
And I know, we talked a lot last year about not having Trevor Lawrence as quarterback was always going to be a big hit, because not only is he Trevor Lawrence, he was also a big time leader of the team. They lose Travis Etienne, they lost a lot of guys, but I just still can't figure out, and we need to talk about Notre Dame too, obviously. I cannot figure out how the DJ that we saw last year against a Notre Dame team that made the playoff, who had 500 yards, is this same guy. Like, what has changed so much for this offense? Was it really just the Trevor Lawrence factor? I mean, I know they lost a lot of weapons, but what they look like right now is that they They look like the team that we used to make fun of for Clemsoning all the time. They look like the team that we used to be viral for just like always shitting the bed, but they're doing it multiple times now. And against Georgia, fine. Like Georgia is still a national title contender. I mean, poor Vanderbilt yesterday. I mean, that was disgusting. But you look at what Clemson just looks like in a bubble. They look awful. Like they can't get anything moving at all. And it's so bizarre to me to see a team that was so well oiled offensively and have a guy who did have to step in due to COVID last year fit well in that system, just look like they've never played football together before.
I don't know. I guess it's the offensive line. But it seems like they have no weapons. One of their only weapons, Shipley, went down with an injury yesterday. It seemed like the entire team got injured yesterday for Clemson. Not to make excuses for them because they
did have a lot of injuries though. They did
have a lot of injuries, but Clemson for the first time. I mean, the ACC. Who's the best team in the ACC?
Yeah,
Wake Forest, Boston College. I don't know. I mean, like it seems like the ACC.
Boston College fans yesterday, which they're small but mighty, they were pretty vocal yesterday. And I mean, they wanted, a close game. But I mean, Florida State, terrible. Obviously, they're 0-4.
0-4. I mean, Florida State, really. I mean, they came back a little bit yesterday, but Mike Norvell's hot seat is hot.
But here's my question for you, and you're more of a numbers guy. Can they buy him out after what they had to do to buy out? Who was there before?
Taggart,
Willie Taggart. Like, didn't they have to pay Willie Taggart like $18 million or some shit?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing. Can you convince your boosters to give you another buyout check? I mean, I don't know if they can.
But that's my brain was broken. But you remember how pissed they were about Willie Taggart? It's so early in the morning, and I'm on so much Dayquil, so just bear with me. But you see what they did with Taggart. They ran him out really quick. And now Mike Norvell, who was like going to be the savior, is worse. I mean, has Florida State, they didn't start 0-4 under Willie Taggart, did they?
No, I don't know what the exact record is, but I think they're 0-4 for the first time since like the 70s, which was when, that's when Bowden took over. Before, like, Bowden transformed that program into what we know it as.
Right.
And before that, they were kind of just like not that great, but that's when the last time that happened. And they also, the team that they lost to yesterday or on 2 weeks ago, Jacksonville State lost to UT Martin yesterday, which is UT Martin's not a very good FCS team. So, like, I mean, the teams they're losing to, it's not like Jacksonville State's an FCS world beater. So, yeah, Florida State, I think Katie has something to say about Florida State.
About the ACC, an interesting stat just came across my timeline so for teams in the ACC that receive preseason votes, the 6 of them, their combined record is 13-11.
That's crazy.
Oh my God.
Wait, it gets better. The 8 teams that did not receive preseason votes, they're 23-9.
Yeah, so
this is why the polls fucking suck. And I don't know how we fix it. I don't know what we do, but this is what happens every single year. You have to have some sort of recency bias from the year before. I get that. But these numbers don't make any sense. Like, we see Clemson, and we all fall into the trap. Like, oh, they're a blue blood program. They're going to go back to the college football playoff. They had no business being ranked this year after the way they're playing. A&M being a top 10 team. We can go down the list. And then you look at teams like Iowa. You look at teams like, we got to talk about Penn State. We got to talk about Notre Dame. Like, all these teams that kind of were falling by the wayside because of like, oh, well, their team's not. It's like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this to ourselves? We do it every single year.
All right. Yeah, you're not wrong. It's the AP. I think I saw it yesterday during the Oregon-Arizona game, which, by the way, Arizona was down 5, and then I blinked and they were down 21 or 28.
I thought for a second, so Blattman said this yesterday in our tour bus. He was like, this could be the game that Arizona's going to fuck everything up in the Pac-12. And
they did in 2007. They did.
And I know we said this, Jack, and I know that, Brandon has said it too. This season has a 2007 feeling to it. There's so much chaos, so many upsets yesterday. The teams, like Oklahoma, are just barely squeaking by. You look at the teams that, and of course, Alabama is still sitting there, and I get that. Georgia's still sitting there. Ohio State absolutely shellacked a team yesterday. But then, last week we were talking about Michigan and how we think Michigan's going to go out and blow Rutgers out of the water. They barely beat Rutgers. You've got a Wisconsin team that I was sure was going to beat Notre Dame yesterday. They get absolutely humiliated. And you go down the list of all of these teams, and you're like, who the fuck is the best team in not only the ACC, the SEC, the Big Ten, the Pac-12? Who's the best team in the country? I feel like I have on Alabama at this point, but that's my recency bias too.
Yeah, I think Alabama or Georgia is probably the best team in the country right now.
Jack, another live college football show in the books like we've been talking about, probably one of the biggest ones we've ever had. And I don't know if you saw the really funny moment that happened during the show, but every live show, we give away $15,000 in crypto from FTX for somebody that's in the crowd. And yesterday, a guy named Sam Smith won it. Big Ev announced it. He was like, the FTX winner of the week is Sam Smith. A guy raised his hand, had no idea what he had won. He was like mouthing, what did I do? What did I win? He was so drunk that he didn't even remember signing up. And he got $15,000 in crypto from FTX because, like I said, they're giving away a lot of money. But it was so funny. There's a still shot where we're all like pointing at him and like being like, you won, man, you won. And he's like, well, what did I win? A beautiful moment thanks to FTX.
Yeah, and so FTX sponsors not only the college football show, but this show. And they are also involved with a little giveaway and contest right now. So in addition to our college football top 10 rankings in the show, we created a top 10 leaderboard of students signing up for verified FTX accounts and are giving away a massive prize pools of crypto to the leaders, including a $100,000 prize split among signups for the #1 school. All you have to do is sign up for FTX using your .edu email address, and that will give your school higher on the board. And each week we release the leaderboards. You can get your friends involved. You can get your classmates involved. All you have to do is sign up for FTX with your .edu email, and then maybe your school will win. And then if your school wins, you will be a part of those that prize. So shout out to FTX.
I wish I had a .edu email address because it's so fucking easy to do. Like you just go on, like we said, FTX, we always say it is the leader in cryptocurrency tracking and trading. It's the best right now. We are in the generation of crypto. Jack, I know you've been on that for a long time. I bet you still wish you had a .edu. If you're listening to this right now and you go sign up, all you have to do is just download the app, sign up, Texas A&M, TAMU.edu, maybe, sprinkle that in. $100,000 prize giveaway. What are we doing? It's the easiest thing in the world. Go download FTX right now in the App Store.
Let's just go to that game that you guys were at. At least Katie and Brandon got to go to. Notre Dame, they kind of, they were down late, but then ended up winning 28 points. However, Notre Dame, again, proves a lot of people wrong because, Kayce, you weren't like in the minority by saying, oh, hey, like, I think that Wisconsin's going to win this game. They were 6-point favorites. That's a pretty substantial amount of points that we saw from the betting market. And Notre Dame goes out there. Graham Mertz is most likely the most overrated quarterback, I think. I can't even think of one that's more overrated than we've ever seen from him. I feel bad for him because I think it feels like he's a really good guy. Maybe he can turn it around. But, yeah, he stinks. He's thrown more he threw more pick sixes yesterday than passing touchdowns he's thrown all year. I tweeted out some stats. Since that Illinois game, he's thrown 2 times the interceptions. His touchdowns, they're like 5 and 4 as a team, or 4 and 5. 5 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. It's crazy. But I think the main story here is Notre Dame, and they even fought through a quarterback injury. And next week we have a massive game. Notre Dame against Cincinnati, one of the biggest college football playoff implication games we have all year. But Notre Dame, we're going to go through all the games really quickly before we get to winners and losers. But Notre Dame, what a true winner of the weekend.
No, and also, granted, Jack Cohn did get hurt, but going into that game, it was like the Jack Cohn revenge game. Like Paul Chryst made the decision to have Graham Mertz over Jack Cohn, and like that makes it so much worse for Wisconsin fans. And again, quarterbacks fit different ways. Joe Burrow is always the example that we use. Sometimes you just don't work out at a program. But for Graham Mertz to go out there, and if he had even played like average yesterday, then you might not want to make those comparisons. But drawing the comparisons between Jack Cohn, even though he got hurt, and Graham Mertz, it's very easy right now. And Wisconsin, like you said, it was, the end of the game just unraveled. But my God, did they look bad? And it's not like you can just say, like, oh, well, just Notre Dame just got lucky. I mean, Wisconsin lost that football game, and Notre Dame, who I have not given a lot of credit to, and I know Katie, you're not to speak on this, has not given a lot of credit to. Maybe Wisconsin's just not very good, but Notre Dame didn't just barely win that game. I mean, they made sure every single mistake that Wisconsin made, they capitalized on.
I mean, Notre Dame, and one of the main keys of this game that are not the game, but more so the just entire college football world. Brian Kelly just became the most winningest. I can't say that word. Yesterday,
winningest.
Yeah, I can't. Yesterday, I kept trying to say the word, and people kept making fun of me at HQ too, because I just couldn't say it. But he has the most wins in Notre Dame history, and I gotta say, that's not like most wins at this school or that school. Notre Dame has, we know, one of the most historic programs in college football. That's undeniable. And he has the most wins of all time there. And it felt like every single year that, at least for a little bit there, that Brian Kelly was on the hot seat. And let's not forget, when Brian Kelly came to Notre Dame, they were a mess.
A mess.
Charlie Weiss had a few good years there with the Brady Quinns and whatnot. But I mean, like, Notre Dame was losing to Syracuse, South Florida, UConn, all those schools. And Brian Kelly came in there from Cincinnati and really turned around that program. And we kept trying to, like, get rid of him. And look at him now. And I know where it's like, oh, they're just going to go to the playoff and get killed. But guess what? Like, I mean, you know how many programs just want to get there? He gets there, and he has the most wins in the history of Notre Dame. Brian Kelly is a great example of, like, be careful what you wish for when you throw out a coach when they're like 8-4, 9-3.
Yes. Also, I've been making a lot of apologies on this show. I would like to make another apology that I used my heart instead of my head yesterday. We know that's a reoccurring theme on this podcast. It's a reoccurring theme on the college football show. I love Madison, Wisconsin. If I didn't go to A&M, I would want to be in Madison. And I wrote on Dan on Big Cat's Instagram. I got roasted for this too. It was a bad day for me on the internet yesterday. I said on Wisconsin on his picture of the game. I didn't go to the game because I felt like shit. And I'm sitting in my hotel room and I'm like, oh my God, I just love Madison so much that I let it blind how good this Notre Dame team can actually be. I thought the Wisconsin loss to Penn State was a very good loss because it was a close game. Obviously, a primetime game that we all watched in week 1. But I have to give credit to Notre Dame. I don't know what it's going to look like moving forward, but what I do know, it's the same thing I've been saying, you've been saying, we've all been saying. This year has so much chaos. I can't sit here and confidently say that if Notre Dame goes to the playoff that they would embarrass themselves. I also can't confidently say if Notre Dame goes to the playoffs that they would win, because every team is beatable. Brandon said it last week. We're saying it again. I mean, again, like, we need to see Alabama and SEC play. We need to see Georgia play an actual good SEC team. We need to see Ohio State back in Big Ten play. But if you look at the Pac-12, I mean, USC losing the way they did last night, like, holy shit, the Pac-12 is just equally as a disaster as the ACC. I guess they have Oregon, but, like, we have no idea who the best team in the country is, and it could very well be Notre Dame. We have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, I would still say that it's probably Bama, Georgia, and then within that second tier is probably Oregon, Penn State, Notre Dame,
Iowa,
who, by the way, just to run through these other games, Iowa struggles with Colorado State, who lost to Vanderbilt. Alabama just killed Southern Miss. Georgia, obviously, I mean, it was sad what was going on in Nashville yesterday, because there was a point in time when they had more points than Vanderbilt had total yards. Oregon kind of struggled with Arizona. Oklahoma, we'll get to them in our midweek episode, but, like, what the hell are they? We talked a little bit about Spencer Rattler. Then Florida takes it to Tennessee. But also, we had a top 15 team go down yesterday. Iowa State loses to Baylor, which, by the way, we all sold Baylor. They may be one of the better teams in the Big 12. Michigan struggles with Rutgers. Michigan State's still undefeated. And Auburn almost loses to Georgia State. Oklahoma State, my Oklahoma State. I'm blanking on the name, but
Cowboys. Okay, it's early in the
They take down Kansas State.
And also, I mean, I know you just ran through all of those. One of the biggest stories yesterday is the legend got benched. He got benched, Bo Nix.
Yeah, I mean, Katie had a funny tweet. Bo Nix has been nixed or something, which I thought was very funny. Auburn, like Georgia State, and Georgia State had every opportunity to win that game. It's insane. I mean, I don't know how that stuff happens. The talent disparity is so huge, but that's just football. Like it's any quote unquote any given Sunday, but it's on Saturday this time. And
the transitive properties that we have going on this year, and it's it's always sunny Silva Pepe drawing right now. That's the way I feel or Pepe Silva. It's because I fucked that up. My brain. I'm really like I haven't drank in a week and I still feel like I'm drunk. I feel like there's no solid answer going into October in college football that can make you truly confident in who's going to be in the playoff. And, some of these teams we have to see continue to play, but like Ohio State, we didn't bury them last week by any stretch of the imagination, but I was like, no, I think Michigan might be the best team in the Big Ten. Michigan struggles against Rutgers, who was a 3-0 team coming in. Ohio State buries a team, that they needed to. And in the SEC, you've still got the top tier teams. Texas goes out and destroys Texas Tech, which, it's Texas Tech. They're not any good. But then you look at like when Texas and Oklahoma play, like what the fuck are we going to see? Because Oklahoma's struggling. Like I don't have any answers on who the best 4 teams in the country are, which makes this feel like 2007, which also, like I said last week, the best part of college football is we'll see. We will see.
Kayce, I've been co-workers, friends with you for about 4 to 5 years now, which is crazy to think about.
It is crazy.
But I do know one thing about you. One of your favorite workouts is through boxing.
I was about to say, I thought you were going to say I was crazy, which is also true. But part of being crazy is that I love to punch out my anger, which we do know. I am a huge boxing fan. And when quarantine hit, one of the worst things on the planet was the fact that I couldn't box because I can't hang a boxing bag. I can't hang a heavyweight bag in my apartment. And that's why Fight Camp came to my rescue, Jack. It is so amazing. And boxing is one of those workouts that's not only good for your mental health, but also your physical health, but it's also gets your anger out. And Fight Camp is so easy to do because you can just do it at home.
Yes, you can do it at home. And it's perfect for people who have ever wanted to learn how to box or kickbox from real fighters. You can also get your kids involved. Brandon's not here today, but if he was, that's another good way to get your kids' energy out. I mean, we've all been around kids, and they have a lot of energy. Fight Camp brings the boxing, kickboxing gym right to your home with full-body workouts that you'll actually look forward to and a freestanding punching bag that can take your hardest hits. It comes with all the gear you need to box at home. It's great for kids. You'll learn from 6 highly qualified trainers that all have real fight experience. And Fight Camp uses new tech that tracks each punch that you throw. So right now you can pay for your Fight Camp over 24 months for less than the cost of a boxing gym and get it right away. Plus, Fight Camp offers free shipping with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Just go to joinfightcamp.com. That's joinfightcamp.com/rough. And so you'll get your 30-day money-back guarantee with free shipping. And with those boxing, that's a lot of shipping. That's going to save you a decent amount of money with that boxing bag. They're huge. So go.
And you don't have to hang. That's the big thing. Like, I can't tell people enough. Like, it is freestanding, so you can move it around if you want to be able to store it or not. I have a friend in Manhattan who got one just because I also got one. It's amazing. And tracking the punches is so cool too, because, if you go crazy on a bag, you don't know how much you've hit, but they actually teach you how to box. And so coming from somebody who loves to box, maybe one day I'll be in Rough and Rowdy, Fight Camp is the way to go.
Kayce, you're right. The college football world is crazy right now. If we're 1 or 2 losses away from 2 top 4, top 5, top 6 team losing to just complete chaos. Like, I don't know who's going to make it, which is great news for Cincinnati, which I think is my winner of the weekend.
Oh, wow. They didn't
because
play.
they didn't play, but they saw the chaos. I was going to say Texas. I was going to say Notre Dame, but Cincinnati's the winner of the weekend. They can accept this chaos, embrace it, and win next weekend against Cincinnati. So my winner of the weekend is without a doubt Cincinnati. Kayce, who's your winner of the weekend?
That's a great one, and it's going to go right up against what you said earlier. My winner of the week is Notre Dame. We're going to see them play each other next week. But the way that Notre Dame put on a statement game yesterday in a prime time, it's the one of the games of the week against Wisconsin. Notre Dame took it to them, and I think that now they kind of shut up the people that are like, well, they're barely squeaking by. Like they killed a decent Wisconsin team yesterday. Notre Dame winner of the week.
Katie,
I would say that it's probably the fans. There we go. It's the fans of like college football. Like we just like to see uncertainty. Even though my team lost, it sucks. But I just like seeing. Look, I like being unknown and like seeing things to upset.
Love that.
my loser of the weekend is a two-pronged attack of USC and Florida State. Both these programs are so far off where they want to be. We have one who has no idea who their coach is going to be. Florida State, they thought they had a guy in Mike Norvell just 3 weeks ago against Notre Dame, and now they do not. They're 0-4. USC gets pretty much blown out by Oregon State. They made it a little bit more interesting at the end, but Oregon State going into – last time that happened, no one had been on the moon yet. Elvis was number one on the charts. That's insane. So my losers of the weekend are USC and Florida State. And by the way, the fans of Florida State, you had a 3:30 kickoff. There was like 20,000 people there. That's like
Embarrassing.
So, I'm going to give my losers of the weekend to them too. Kayce Smith, who is the loser of the weekend?
Guys, I get a lot of shit for putting people on, calling people losers for the ways that you guys take out of context. You know who the loser of the week is? Me. I am the loser of the week because not only was I incredibly wrong about Arkansas, Arkansas could also be a winner of the week because they just own the state of Texas this year. I am the loser of the week because not only was I wrong about Arkansas, not only was I wrong about Texas A&M, not only was I wrong about Mississippi State, I'm going to say this and say it clearly. I did not win one single bet yesterday. Not a one. Now, I had teams that I thought were going to win that won. I could not bet against a spread for shit. But I am the loser of the week for not realizing that you jinx yourself when you talk shit about a rival team, losing to a team that you have to play before you play them. I am the loser. I am the loser. I talked shit about Texas 2 weeks ago. My social media is a dumpster fire. I'm eating all the crow I possibly can. I'm the loser of the week. And everybody who's like, oh, like go dunk on her. Like, the Texas fans are just dunking on me, which is fine. They deserve to. But it's also like, I don't even care because I know I was wrong. Dunk on me all you want. I look like an asshole. I'll take it. A&M looked like shit yesterday. I am the loser of the week for all of those reasons.
Katie?
And I'll put the ACC. I think we just eliminated ourselves for having a team in the football playoffs. Everyone's eating each other, and the conference just looks like a shit show.
Shit show.
All right, shit list. My shit list of the week goes to, his name is Kayvon Pope. He quit in the middle of the game yesterday at Ohio
We can
State.
always podcast without talking about that.
I wouldn't even say like who knows if he's a shitty person or not, but he's definitely a dramatic person because if you quit in the middle of a game, you were certainly dramatic. But that's just such a college football story. I mean, it was also something we saw with NFL player Vontae Davis. But Kayvon Pope, for those who don't know, you'd have to not be on the internet not to know. Kayvon Pope in the middle of the game tried to go out into the game with there was a package that he was supposed to be in, and then someone else went in for him. He had a fit on the sideline, like took off his jersey and threw his gloves into the crowd, then got convinced to come back to the sideline for Ohio State. This was around the second quarter, and then he continued to throw a fit, and then he was just asked like, no, you got to go. This is bad. He goes to the locker room, goes on Twitter immediately, tweets out, "Fuck Ohio State. Good luck to my teammates." At least he's likes his teammates. And he seemingly quit the team. I don't know how on earth he will still be on the team. He'd probably be removed from the team. All things being said, if you want it back. But Kayvon Pope is my shit list of the week. Ohio State linebacker who quit the team in the middle of the game, which is very just like chaos, just so
yeah.
chaos.
I as someone who is very dramatic, this out dramatizes, which is not a word, but we make up words on this podcast. I can't imagine quitting. I can imagine getting mad. We've all gotten mad before. He thought he should be in the game, whatever. But then doubling down and being like, actually, fuck you, I'm going to quit. Like in the moment, like that's one of those decisions that you sit back and you're like, oh boy, I probably shouldn't have done that. I probably shouldn't have said that. But just such a college football story for sure. So that's a really good shit list. I'm going to put Oklahoma fans on my shit list I know we talked about it earlier, so we don't need to go in too much detail, but Spencer Rattler is not playing well. I thought he was going to win the Heisman. He's clearly not going to win the Heisman this year. But when you are a fan base that is used to winning a bunch and you've got a bunch of good quarterbacks with one Heisman, and then you have a young guy who I know it's his second season, but in the middle of the game, you start chanting for another guy and the coaching staff doesn't make the decision to take him out, you guys just look like assholes. Like now Spencer Rattler has every reason to come out and be like, Oklahoma fans are shitty. He's not going to. He's better than me, but I would have. Like you said, great PC answer after the game. I don't care about what they think. I care about the people on the field. I would be double motherfucking all those fans yesterday. They won the game. They didn't look great. We're going into October. It's still September right now. Give him a second. If he ends up being bad enough to get taken out, the coaching staff will do it. Don't fucking chant against your own players in the middle of the game. I don't care who you are. It's so fucking trashy.
No, you're not wrong. Yeah. Katie.
My little two-part is the UNC white jerseys. They look so good. They play so shitty. The second one, it is. You can look it up. The NC State kicker who missed the field goal going into regulation. I had 47.5 as a total, and it finished at 48. College kickers, fuck you.
Oh, college kickers are the worst. Obviously, Brandon's not here, so we will talk to him on Tuesday or Wednesday. But I do think that, doing this rapid fire reaction podcast is always a good idea because we're all going to feel probably completely differently when we all meet together back in New York. But I'll tell you what, I think that yesterday was one of the most chaotic days I've seen in a long time in football. So many favorites going down, so many storylines that we'll get to in the midweek episode. We probably need to do like 3 hours on the next episode. But thanks to everybody who hung in with the bad Wi-Fi yesterday, hung in with me almost dying, Katie almost dying. I guess Brandon actually might be dead. He might not actually be here the way that Mississippi State played yesterday. So we will be back next week. Jack, thanks for taking the helms on this and for dealing with us in Chicago because apparently Chicago doesn't like Manhattan's Wi-Fi.
No, yeah. The amount of stress and whatnot yesterday was crazy just throughout the day. And then the Wi-Fi didn't work. But I finished the day last night with some high noon and everything is good in the world. High noon, shout out to them. Thanks for sponsoring the show. Thanks for calming me down last night after a wild day of college football. And all that being said, thanks to the Roughnecks. And we'll see you guys next week. Sorry, this wasn't our typical hour and a half, 2 hour podcast, but we thought we want, like you said, we wanted to get it out, and we'll see you guys in a few days. So yeah, Brandon will be there. So don't worry. Brandon's not coming anywhere. I'll guarantee you that. So he'll be back.
I didn't even want to talk about Mississippi State today because I know I mentioned that they lost LSU in just true Mississippi State fashion. But I know he'll have a lot to say. But I think he actually might be like a dead person. Mississippi State has just demoralized him completely. But like you said, Jack, we wanted to get the rapid reactions out to you immediately. Katie and I are heading now to Aurora. So if you are in the Chicago area, come hang out. It'll be Dan, Dave, all the Chicago guys, me, Katie, a whole group of us for the NFL games. We didn't want you guys to have to wait until tonight or tomorrow to get this. So thanks to Jack. Jack, you're just the hardest working man in show business. That's what you are.
Well, thank you. I think we all work pretty hard, so in different ways. But yeah, we wanted to get this out, and we'll see you guys in a few days.